Today we are going to learn to use some of the transformation tools, the puppet warp. We're going to be going over the smudge tool, puppet warp tool, liquify tool, some of the blur tools, and we're going to take a quick look at the filter gallery as well. So you've made a digital painting. We have selected and masked some photos to bring into the painting. This is just a practice one that I've given you to work on. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we're going to start with the foreground saucer, where you have to choose, which object you're going to be working with and go to that layer. Unfortunately, when we're doing these kinds of techniques, we are going to have to get rid of the mask. So before you do anything, please make sure that the mask is exactly how you want it. If you need to make any corrections, make them before you change the mask. Or we're going to get rid of the mask, so we just have the cutout of the object. Okay, so let's go to layer. Okay, so we select the layer, and then we're going to go down to raster mask. Okay, after raster mask, we're going to the flyout menu here and go to apply. All right, so now you see we have just, our cutout of the little saucer here, and we don't have the mask anymore. Okay, so next, and that's really important, if you leave the mask on, the mask is going to hide some of the transformations that you create. Okay, so you've got to do this. All right. The first one we're going to take a look at is over here on the toolbar. Okay, so below the gradient tool, which we've used a lot, is the blur tool. It looks like a little teardrop over here. We're going to click and hold because the smudge tool is in that little drawer. Click and hold, go across and down to the smudge tool and click on it to select it. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Control plus zooms in. Use the little hand tool to move it over. Okay, so we've got, go back to the smudge tool, and up here our options are the brush size and the strength of the brush. So you could start with 50% if you want something a little stronger. You can move it up, to a stronger number. If you want it to work a little bit slower, you can bring it down. I'm going to leave it on 50 right now. Okay, I'm using my bracket tool. Remember, if we look at the keyboard, go to the right of the letter P, we have the two bracket tools that make our brush bigger. The right bracket makes it bigger and the left bracket makes it smaller. Okay, now I am going to go here, click and drag this out. Okay, and this is what the smudge tool does. Now it's not strong enough for me, so I'm going to go up to 80 because it's not pulling it out very much. So now when I go up to 80, it should, be a nice strong, there we go, a strong smudge. Okay. I'm going to make my brush just a little bit bigger, although that's kind of cool. It looks like a little hand. Okay. Oops. And I'm going to Control Z goes back one step. I'm going to make this brush a little smaller again to pull this out. Okay, so it smudges, it pulls the pixels out. This is a destructive editing tool, but this is a copy of the original, so it's not a problem. Okay, we're going to pull this out too. You can make it look like it's kind of lines of motion, implying that it's flying. Sometimes I lose my cursor in all this. It's a little hard to see, especially on the silver. There we go. Okay, so I could keep going with this. Let's see. Where's that cursor? There it is. Okay, so you can see the smudge tool pulls it out. It's almost like when you smudge chalk or charcoal. So you put your finger down and you smudge it. So that is kind of the effect we're getting here. Okay, So the next tool we're going to take a look at is the Puppet Warp tool. Okay, we're going to use this picture of this student. Okay, I'm going to click on, I just called it dude. Okay, and we're on this layer right here, and again it is masked. We're going to be using the Puppet Warp tool, but if we don't get rid of that mask and just make him a cutout, it's not going to work. The Puppet Warp tool will choose the entire picture, the rectangle of the entire picture, and you will not be able to move him separately. Okay, so we're going to layer, and we're going to raster mask and apply. And again, we have the cutout of him and no mask. Okay, next we're going to edit, and we're going to Puppet Warp. Takes a minute sometimes. So with Puppet Warp, you're going to get this web all around the object or subject that you have on that layer. You have to, where the little lines come together, you have to put pins so that you can move. What you're going to be doing then is you're going to be moving it from that pin. So watch what happens. If I only put a pin there, I can kind of swing him back and forth. Okay, I'm going to put a pin here. I want his upper body to stay put. So I'm going to pin him down everywhere. Okay, and what I want to do is move his legs. So I'm going to put pins where the joints would be. So for example, I can kind of move his foot. I can pull his knee out. You have to be careful because it can end up looking really rubbery too. Okay. But it is really kind of cool to work with. You can change the position of someone if you do it very carefully. Okay, now I am also, what I think I'm going to do is transform him really small eventually, make him look like he's floating in the sky. So I'm going to take this foot, and I'm going to make it look like his feet are kind of hanging down. But again, I have to be careful not to make I don't want to make his leg look rubbery. So I might have to add an extra point. There we go, and kind of pull that back. I don't want it to look like he's pointing his toe, just kind of like they're hanging. There we go. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Kind of pull it back so it looks like his feet are just kind of dangling. All right, once I'm done, I push the check mark, and I'm going to go to Edit Free Transform, hold the Shift key, and bring him down in size. Okay, and I might kind of tilt him backwards so it looks like he is floating or flying in the sky there. Maybe I'll bring him down a little bit. I would have to add a shadow later on to this to make it look more realistic. I would add shadows to the saucers as well. All right, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is the Liquify tool. And this is a really fun tool. We're going to use the Miss O layer, so click on my profile picture there. Okay, so that's this one. And we have to go and get rid of the mask again, layer, raster mask, and apply. Or raster mask. So we're rasterizing the mask. All right, so now there's no mask there, so we're able to bring it into our Liquify tool. So what we're going to, the Liquify tool is up here in the filters. So we're going to start taking a look at some filters now. So here, filters. All right, we're going to go with Liquify, and we're going to get this Liquify window. I can use my Control minus to move it so that I can see the whole thing. Okay, unfortunately this doesn't have the little hand, so I can't move things around. All right, on the Liquify tool, we have our various Liquify tools over here, and over on this side, oops, we have the options. Sorry, I didn't make my screen big enough there. Okay, so the first Liquify tool we have here is the Smudge tool, and it is similar to the Smudge that we already worked with, but it seems to work a little bit better. Okay, so with this one, we're moving pixels around. So again, it is a destructive editing tool. You can change the size of the brush. The density of the brush is like, think about a brush and how many bristles it has. So if you want it to be kind of just, you know, have kind of fringy, you could bring it down. If you want it to be thicker, you can bring it up. So I want mine to be a little bit thicker. The rate is at 100%. That's the default. I would leave it there. Now, sometimes you have to be a little bit patient with this tool because it can kind of freeze up on you, and it will eventually work. You just have to kind of wait. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, I can use my bracket tool to make the brush bigger or smaller. So here I'm going to pull my nose out. Okay. I am going to make my chin a little bit bigger, so I'm making the brush bigger. Okay. I'm going to push my under my chin up a little. Oops, I can Control Z. Oh, there we go. Let me do it just a little bit here. There we go. This is also the tool they often use on models to really kind of make the model more perfect, you know, so that we all feel bad and think we're inadequate. They're not perfect. They're messing with how, you know, how the models look. So with tools like this. Okay. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to kind of do something that I think might look kind of interesting. All right, and oops, make my brush smaller. I'm going to go ahead and pull my ear out a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Again, because I don't have that hand tool, it makes it a little difficult. All right, there are some tools here that there's the reconstruct tool. If you wanted to, for example, just put the nose back and nothing else, you could push the reconstruct tool. It does, you just kind of brush over the area. That really does freeze up, and it takes a while, but it will work. Sometimes it's easier to reset, but then that does reset the whole thing. All right, the next one down is smoothen, not one that I use often. Twirl is pretty good. Twirl allows you, oops, I'm going to zoom out here. There we go. Show you the twirl tool so what I'm going to do is make my brush really big. Okay, we have the rate at 100%. It's gonna it's on my whole head now, and I'm going to click and wait. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm not on the twirl tool. That's why. There we go. Now I'm back on the twirl tool. Okay, so now when I click, it's slow, but if I click a lot, it's slowly tilting my head forward, twirling my head forward. You can see it moving just a little bit. On Photoshop, it moves much quicker. In fact, kids tend to kind of mess up the faces sometimes. So I just tilted my head forward by using the twirl tool. The next one is on Photoshop it's called the pucker tool. Okay, and here it's called the shrink tool. I'm going to use the shrink tool on my eye, so I'm going to make my brush nice and small here so it will. There we go. It's going to go around my eye, and then I'm going to click on my eye, and you can see as I keep clicking, I'm clicking and clicking over and over again, it's shrinking my eye so it looks super tiny. Okay, and then let's see, the last one here that we're going to use is the bloat. On Photoshop, it's called the bloat tool. It kind of bloats things out. Here it's called the blow tool, okay? And it doesn't seem to work as well. Oops. Let me zoom out a little here. As it does in Photoshop, but well, it could be just the image that I've selected. So with this one, I'm going to make it bigger so we can see if we can make my head bigger. So I'm trying to make my whole head a little bit bigger, and I'm clicking and clicking, and again, it's going very slowly, even though it's on 100%, but it is working. Okay, so that is the Liquify tool. All right, I'm going to push OK. And again, it may take a while, but there we go. Okay. And now if I want to put this so that it's behind that, there we go. That's kind of cool. Oops. Let me see here. I'm on the auto select, so it selected one of those. I'm going to go with, yeah, if I kind of move this in here. Oh, why did it select that again? Oh well. There we go. And I got to move the shadow too. Okay, I'm going to move it back. Alrighty. There we go. And now this guy looks like he has to go behind the obelisk there. So I'm going to put him behind it. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. There. Okay, so the next one we're going to take a look at. Again, I'm not so sure it works as good as it does in Photoshop. But we're going to go to the, where is it? The sky left saucer. We're going to click on that. Again, we have to go to layer and we have to rasterize that layer. So go to raster mask, apply. There we go. All right. Now on this one, we're going to go with the blur tool. Okay. And this time I'm going to bring it forward just so you can see it a little better. We're going to go to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. I'm sorry, I just chose the wrong one. Let's try that again. I'm going to push the X. I don't want the Gaussian blur. So I'm going to go to filter, blur, and we're going to go with motion blur. Okay, so actually I'm going to try to get something that looks a little like this. In Photoshop it tends to work really well. I hear it just kind of made it look blurry, but I just want to show it to you because if you do switch over to Photoshop eventually, it will work well. And you can play with it and see how it looks to you. So here is where the angle of the blur is going to come. So you think about, you know, what angle this thing is moving. So in this case, it's kind of moving up like that. So I want the blur to come from that direction. Okay, and then again with, it might take, oh, it's working. Okay, so I'm going to move up the blur. And you can see it kind of looks like it's shaking. So the further I go up, the blurrier it gets. So I'm going to pull it back a little bit and push OK. And then I'm going to put that back up here. Okay, so it looks like it is moving faster than the other things that are still. All right, and now we're going to go with the sky right saucer. And we're going to go again to filter. And we're going to go to blur. And there's a radial blur as well. Again, this in Photoshop works super well. Not so sure it's going to work as well here, but we're going to try it out. Radial blur. It's being a little slow. There we go. Okay, with the radial blur, the X and the Y will change the direction of the blur. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so let's move this up. So it's going to make it look like it's spinning right now. Again, with these tools, we have to have patience. So I've clicked right over here. I'm going to wait. I've clicked up on the line, and I'm just going to kind of wait. But you can start to see that this is looking like it's starting to spin. And actually, I think it's a better effect than the motion blur. Okay. And so we're having some difficulties here. I'm going to wait and be patient, which isn't great for making videos. So I'm sorry about that. Let's try. Okay, it's not going to work. You can see a little bit of it here. And again, it will work eventually if I keep trying, but I'm going to leave it there for right now. Push OK. There's also a zoom blur. Oops, it's not going to let me do that even. So I'm going to, nope. All right. Trying to be patient. Okay, so there we go. All right. Well, anyways, it will, you know, again, you guys have to, with these filters, oftentimes we do have to be patient. I don't want to exit because I don't want to lose what I've done, but again, you just wait and it will eventually, you know, happen. So for now, I'm gonna, oh, there it is. It just worked. Okay, so it looks like it really went up high. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. Okay, all right. So now there are just one. I just want to show you one other thing. It's called the filter gallery. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the Miss O layer, and let's hope the filter gallery works a little quicker. So it went to the filter and filter gallery. Okay, and you can see the results are first results already. Okay, over here we have different filters that mimic different artistic media. So for example, here is colored, I'm going to click on the colored pencils and see what happens. Again, patience is something you're going to have. Right now it is on a different filter. It's not going to let me go there. Okay. But let's see if it's going to work. There we go. Okay, so actually the first one was cooler. Over here we have our options. Okay, so this is the colored pencil one. You can make the stroke width larger. And again, these work really well in Photoshop. So eventually when we're back at school, you will be able to use those. All right, I'm going to try and move that up. So I'm trying to slide these. The slider doesn't, there we go. Okay. And so again, there are other interesting filters. If you're willing to be patient, you can, you know, you can find some really cool things. So there's the neon glow. I just select, okay, so that's actually still the colored pencil. And if we wait, it may switch to the neon glow for us. There we go. Well, that doesn't look like neon glow. We still have the colored pencil. There we go. That's the neon glow. With the neon glow, you can choose the color. So you can change the color if you want. You can change the glow size. So let's say, yep, I can make it pink. Push OK. OK. And you can change the glow size and all of that. There we go. All right, for now, I'm going to select that one and push OK in a second. But just so you know, you can try out all of these fun filters. As we can scroll down, there's all kinds of great ones. The glowing edge is a super cool one. Yeah, so take your time and be patient, and you can use these too. I'm going to push OK. And there we go. Okay, and you can see that it changed the picture of me from this to this. All right. So again, keep in mind that you have to have patience when you're using these, more advanced tools, but it's going to come up with some really cool results. All right. Well, thank you. And of course, I'm going to save it as a PSD. It's really important to save all those layers. And if you want to upload it, then I would like to have you upload it as a JPEG. So save it as a JPEG as well so that you can upload it to Teams. All right, thanks a lot and good luck with your surrealistic experiments and practice.